Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees get the sweep against the Seattle Mariners, and they really cap it off with quite the comeback. Down by 5, there being no hit through 7 innings against Brian Wu, one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's going to be an all-star. And they are able to get 3 runs in the 8th, 2 runs in the 9th off of Andres Munoz, and then they win it in extra innings on a walk-off sac fly by Aaron Judge. A lot, discussed sort of it within that comeback in the last couple of innings, and it was actually, Anthony Volpe with a really, really nice slide to secure that win in the 10th inning. And Volpe's really struggled in almost all facets of the game, but give him credit there for a really nice slide to evade the tag of Cal Raleigh, the Mariners catcher. But that was one to feel good about. And yet again, and of course, it's never going to be perfect, Yankees in last games of series are very good. Again, in different situations, right? Trying to avoid the sweep, trying to earn the sweep, going for the series win. Again, like, I wouldn't even be totally shocked. It's got to be up there, right? Not sure if that stat is easily found. Because obviously, like, there's 3-game series, there's 4 games. Like, Yankees record at the last game of a 3-game series is different than, maybe in a 4-gamer, but either way, getting sidetracked. This was very impressive. Again, against Andres Munoz as well, who he blew a save against the Yankees back in Seattle, and that was different. Munoz, he didn't even really do that poorly in that one, and the Yankees still lost that game. But this one, we've seen the Yankees since 2020. They are the best team in baseball in home extra innings. They are the worst team in baseball in road extra innings. So at least, as bad as this is on the road, they're able to get it done at home. And so for me, that's the talking point right now, having come off of the win as far as the recency goes. But a lot of good in this series, and a lot went on just, outside of the game. I did an episode on the DJ LeMahieu designated for assignment, and he was officially released from the roster. Like, that was a big deal. And before that, Jazz Chisholm Jr. was basically renamed second baseman. Like, that is going to be where he stays. And while we're at it, Jazz is going to be in the home run derby, which I'm surprised about from a Yankee perspective. Now, it makes the viewing experience more interesting for a Yankee fan. Last time we saw Yankees in a home run derby was 2017, where Aaron Judge won in Miami. And as well, Gary Sanchez was in that one as well. That was a really fun one. You look back on it, it had a couple of current Yankees in Giancarlo Stanton and Cody Bellinger. That truly was like one as a Yankee fan that was fun. But also, Aaron Judge really did struggle for quite some time. That was his rookie year. He was pretty awful for really almost all of August. I think it kind of bled a little bit into September. He did pick it back up by the end, but it was a prolonged slump that we hadn't really seen for him since he got good, if you will, Judge. The point is, there is a risk. And with Jazz as well, he can be very home run happy. And so, and I don't like that as it is. So that's concerned. Not only that, but he's said to have had shoulder issues and he's injury prone, right? So there's the injury prone and home run happy combination that I don't love to this. However, as a fan, it makes that event much more exciting. So again, wanted to mention that Jazz is in the home run derby. And now he's the second baseman. Staying on the kind of transaction front, as we said, LeMahieu, Mark Leiter Jr. goes on the 15-day IL with a left fibular head stress fracture. Now, that actually occurred in Cincinnati, him trying to leg it out with Ellie De La Cruz in extra innings on a play that he was covering first. It's kind of amazing. He ended up pitching in probably about at least maybe 4 more outings after that with basically a messed up left leg. Now, it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything crazy long term. It sounds like he's going to start maybe throwing some bullpen sessions soon. There is no timetable, so I'm not saying he's going to be back very soon, but it sounds as if, for example, Fernando Cruz, his timeline's way further back with his oblique issue, whereas Leiter Jr., it shouldn't be anything crazy. Now, again, he could probably use a reset anyway, right? He was one that was on the mound for that potential season changing. I don't like saying that because such a long season and, there's so many ebbs and flows, but that Cody Bellinger catch against the Mets, which the Yankees, by sweeping the Mariners, really have almost solidified that being such a big moment in a way, if that makes sense, where, if the Yankees lost the games after that Bellinger catch, then it doesn't hold the same kind of value. Yes, in that moment and in that game it did, but it's really kind of been heightened based on the good play after that. So Leiter Jr. to the IL. And then after game one, they designate Jeff Hartley for assignment, which made sense in many ways. He actually struggled. I think he was really the only guy that did struggle in game one to make room for Cam Schlittler, who makes his major league debut and was really, really impressive to the point where he will definitely get another start and in hopes that maybe he can take Clark Schmidt's spot in the rotation. So, right, so there's the Schlittler piece. And then with LeMay being designated for assignment, your beat Bebas is back with the big club. So those are the moves. So again, like just a lot going on, it feels like. And, the trade deadline is about 3 weeks away. So would expect the Yankees to be pretty active on many different fronts. Bullpen, third base, starting pitching, I think to varying degrees will be addressed. And they need to be. They definitely need to be. So let's start, of course, with game one. And, the matchup is Logan Gilbert versus Will Warren. And Logan Gilbert is really good. Yankees have had their success against Logan Gilbert. But he's also had the Yankees numbers at time as well. Again, Logan Gilbert's been in the league for a while, right? So the sample size increases. You're not both sides. But I can recall on both ends of the spectrum. And this was one where the Yankees kind of, by the end of it, they got to Gilbert. He was pretty good to start. But then the Yankees kind of chipped away and eventually broke through against Gilbert in the sixth. But for Will Warren, really nice bounce back outing after he got pummeled against the Blue Jays. There's a lot to like with Will Warren. And he's an important cog, especially considering like Garrett Cole after the season, Clark Schmidt after the season, Luis Gil's a complete unknown. Will Warren right now is your number 3 starter. Now that might change, but that's what it is right now. He wins to go to 6-4, 5 2/3 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And this is now 2 good outings versus the Mariners this season. For Seattle, Logan Gilbert gets the loss to go to 2-3, 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts for Logan Gilbert. So with this lineup, we saw, and games 1 and 2 have the same lineup, which is very rare for both teams, actually. The same starting lineups. No Grisham, no Rice, no LeMahieu, and this would actually end up being LeMahieu's last game. Now, he didn't appear in it, but as far as it was less game on the active roster. But Dominguez batting leadoff stayed true the whole series. So I think against righties, I think they're going to try to stick with that. And I'm good with that. I'm not one of those that's saying that it has to be Dominguez, but I don't mind it. And Dominguez was really good in game 2. Not as hot in games 1 or 3, but, still, he's been riding a pretty good hot wave, at the dish. So that's what they're doing. And, I still think it's fluid. And I also think there's, with Grisham, as far as his hamstring, that's still a thing. I think that's probably playing a little bit of a role as well. They don't want him they're not overdoing it with him. But it is interesting. Like, it's still a situation where people are going to sit. And it was pretty simple in this one, right? Dominguez led off in each game against all righties. And then in games 1 and 2, no Grisham, no Rice. In game 3, no Goldschmidt, no Stanton. However, both would pinch hit in game 3. We'll discuss that when we get there. And so now it's a combination of Peraza and Bebas at third until they make a trade. And that's going to be kind of what you're waiting for. And you're just trying to tread water for now because the offense is going to be non-existent. I mean, the defense is so much better with LeMahieu out of the mix and Chisholm off third and second. So that's the good thing. That's very important. They needed to do it. As much as LeMahieu was better offensively than Peraza, the defense was too big of a thing that you kind of did what you had to do. And it came out that LeMahieu, he really can't play third. And so that's the case, then there's just really no role for him. He's not going to really be a pinch hitter. He's certainly not going to be a pinch runner, and you're not bringing him for defensive purposes. And so that's kind of what leads you to his release. Anyway, because we'd already spoke about LeMahieu in the episode for him being designated for assignment. Let's jump to when there's scoring, right? Warren and Gilbert are matching zeros for a while. And you know what? Right. There was a rain delay that was the key. And I should have mentioned that earlier. That kind of changed the fortunes where, Warren, it was kind of the same, but Gilbert, he was a different pitcher post rain delay. He was really looking good. And at this point, the Mariners, dating back to the Pirates series they had a innings scoreless streak at about like 33 or 34 innings thereabouts, which is obviously extremely impressive. And I'm sure it probably dated back to even before that Pirates series. But the Yankees finally get a run in the fifth. Again, post rain delay, they do get a run. One out single Goldschmidt, and Goldschmidt seems to be doing a little bit better. He was really cold. He's not to the way he was back in April, but Goldschmidt, this was a good game. He had a 3-hit game for Paul Goldschmidt, including a double and a lot of damage against right-handed pitching. Austin Wells walks, and Austin Wells really is looking very good currently. He has taken a stranglehold back of that starting catcher role. Not to say Ben Rice and JC Escar won't get some opportunities at the catcher position, but Austin Wells, really impressed by what he's done lately. Very good to see. Um, Ultimately, Volpe beats. I can't remember if he beat out the double play or if they just got the fourth and second and didn't throw to first. But Volpe's offensive struggles and defense, really, but I guess more offense, really, it's still a problem. And he is kind of a staple at the bottom of the lineup right now. And the problem is there's no other shortstop options, so they're going to be riding out with Volpe, which is a bit of a concern. But anyway, Oswald Peraza gets a pretty fortunate RBI single to break the scoreless tie. Goldschmidt scores. It was a play where Cole Young, the second baseman, if he fields it cleanly, he might have been able to get Peraza out, but it was a tough play for him, kind of just perfectly placed by Peraza. And it makes it 1-0. Also, I think Volpe might have done a decent job of kind of making it tough for Young to see the ball. So again, I'm more negative on Volpe, but to be fair, there were a couple of good base running situations for Volpe, more so what he did in the final game. 1-0 Yanks at this point. Will Warren is taken out with 2 outs in the sixth, 2 on, 2 out. There was a couple of walks by Warren, and those were his only 2 walks of the game. So maybe in terms of post rain delay, maybe a little bit of that going on. I think he was just trying to be smart. And so Tim Hill comes on. And the Mariners put up a pinch hitter, Donovan Solano, and Solano lines out to Cody Bellinger. Tim Hill, even though maybe the ERA is slightly misleading, Hill has done a pretty nice job, all things considered. Like, I think as a Yankee fan, you don't mind when Tim Hill is in there. At least I feel that way. And in this game, he gets 4 outs, picks up a hold, his 9th hold of the season, just, easy. Just four up, 4 down for him. But in between that, in the 6th, the Yankees break it open. And it's a 3-run homer by Giancarlo Stanton. His second homer of the year. Stanton wasn't done as far as the home run ball was concerned this series, but that makes it 4-0. And Stanton is starting to get going. The power is now there. Opposite field power as well. And that's good to see. So 4-0 Yanks. And then eventually, Logan Gilbert's taken out. And then Casey Legomina is brought in. And Austin Wells greets him with a 2-run homer. So Austin Wells is 14th homer of the year. At this point, it's homers in back-to-back games for Wells. Again, he wasn't done. Sorry. At this point, it's 3 straight for Austin Wells because he had homered in games 2 and 3 against the Mets, and then he does it here. So actually, 3 straight games of homers for Wells makes it 6-0. So for Gilbert, he's charged with 5 runs. Bottom of the 7th, Aaron Judge in the Judge versus Raleigh battle. They actually both homer in this game. Judge homers here for his 34th homer to make it 7-0. And then you get a Jazz Chisholm Jr. RBI double makes it 8-0. And then pitching change and Paul Goldschmidt with a 2-run single makes it 10-0. It's really Yankees are really beating up on the Mariners at this point. Then Jeff Hartley struggles. An RBI double for Julio Rodriguez and a 2-run homer for Cal Raleigh, which that kind of hurt in the Judge sense. Raleigh's 36th homer. And that was where they would leave it. Neither of them would homer again in this series. So it's 36 for Raleigh, 34 for Judge. Ian Hamilton would finish out that inning. Again, a bet, Hartley, who was designated for assignment after the game. And maybe we'll see him back, but I think he was designated recently too. So he might be kind of on and off the roster. But he goes, 3 runs, only gets 1 out, 1 walk. Not good. Ian Hamilton gets a double play to end the inning. And then Scott Effross with a scoreless 9th. And I'm kind of hoping that Effross is can be someone that can step up into as someone that in sort of middle leverage, medium leverage situations that you can kind of use, right? Where it's not just mop up duty, with Leiter Jr. down, with Cruz down, that Efros can be a right handed option. And also with Loaisiga struggling too. Like, I'm hoping because I mean, Clayton Beater, as much as he has good stuff, like we'll talk about him in game 3. I'm not so confident in him at this point, but Efros, who's shown ability in the past, I'm hoping that maybe he can be something. Anyway, game 2, Cam Schlittler looked impressive. He was throwing, upwards of 100 miles an hour, high 90s. Um, really good, really good arsenal from Schlittler, honestly, in terms of the heavy fastball, nice slider action. Like the Mariners definitely did not look great against him. He gives up a couple homers, one to JP Crawford, one to Jorge Polanco. Besides that, was really good. 5 1/3 innings, picks up his first win of his career in his first outing. 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. So excited to see what he can bring. Right? There's going to be struggles. That the league will make adjustments to him, but he's got stuff, and that's the biggest thing. Again, same lineup in game 2 as game 1 for the Yanks. For the Mariners, it was Logan Evans, who did not pitch very well. He loses to drop to 3-3, 4 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts for him. So the Yankees jump out early in the first inning, and it would be a Cody Bellinger RBI single to make it 1-0. Now, Cody Bellinger extends his hitting streak in the 9th inning of game 3 to 15 games. So that's now 2 15-game hitting streaks in a single season. The first to do it since Derek Jeter, I believe they said it might have been 2012, I think was the year. But again, Cody Bellinger, like he has been really, really key for this team. And again, after that slow start, him and Jazz Chisholm Jr., when you think about it, those were 2 guys that in April weren't very good. And ever since then, they have been excellent. And so Bellinger makes it 1-0 there. Then an RBI single by Giancarlo Stanton makes it 2-0. Then an RBI ground up by Chisholm Jr. makes it 3-0, just like that. And then at the top of the third, JP Crawford. A mistake by Schlittler is deposited into the seats by Crawford. 7th homer of the year makes it 3-1, but the Yankees strike right back. Jazz Chisholm Jr., who's been hitting a lot of home runs lately, he homers here. His 16th homer of the year makes it 4-1. Jorge Polanco gets one back for the Mariners. His 13th homer of the year makes it 4-2. And then in the bottom of the 5th, Chisholm Jr. is at it again. 2nd homer of the night, 17th homer of the year. And 17 homers is impressive when you consider the fact that that's in about 60 games of action. He missed a lot of time with injury. And so 6-2 Yanks there. But top of the 6th, Schlittler gives up a ground rule double to Julio Rodriguez. Then he strikes out Raleigh. Schlittler's out. Loaisiga comes in, and Randy Arozarena, the former current Yankee killer, gets his 15th homer of the year to make it 6-4. Jonathan Loaisiga has had struggles keeping the ball in the park. He's not one that you can really, really depend on right now, but you kind of have to, given the injuries and other ineffectiveness in the pen. The pen is definitely a problem. Bottom of the 6th, Yankees, though, respond again. And it would be, in large part, there was an error by Julio Rodriguez and a fly ball by Oswald Peraza that kind of opened things up to the point where Jason Dominguez gets an RBI single to make it 7-4, and then Aaron Judge gets a 2-run double to make it 9-4. Then the 7th, Loaisiga is still in there. It's the first home run of the season for Cole Young. 2-run homer for Young. In fact, it's his first one of his career. Makes it 9-6. Luke Weaver comes on, and that was a bright spot. Luke Weaver looked really good. He finishes out the 7th. And then in the 8th as well, pitches well there as 2. So 5 outs for Weaver, 1 2/3 innings. There was a hit by pitch to Arozarena, but no hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts, 8th hole for Weaver. That's what you're looking for, and the Yankees need that. And then Devin Williams in the 9th. He continues to be really solid. Pitches a 1-2-3 9th inning, gets the save, gets a couple of strikeouts, 13th save of the season. The Yankees at this point win the series, 9-6 win, and we go to game 3, which on paper did not look good. And quite honestly, the game didn't look good. Brian Wu against Marcus Stroman. Now, Brian Wu had a no-hitter through 7 innings. He ends up going 7 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and gets a no decision. Marcus Stroman, he continues since he's been back to keep the Yankees in games. My expectations for him are so low that, hey, 5 innings, 2 runs, I'm taking that every time. 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. You need Stroman to basically, at this point in time, give you innings, not get bombed, You know he's not going to be, or you hope he's not going to be a factor come playoff time. But it doesn't mean that in the next month or two that Stroman is going to be someone that takes the pill, um, every 5 days. And like again, it's not overpowering stuff, but he's finding his way to limit damage. That's what you're looking for. So again, in this game, Stanton on the bench to start, Goldschmidt on the bench to start, Peraza as well. Very heavy lefty lineup against Brian Wu. So first inning is where the Yankees really had their best shot against Wu with a couple of walks by Dominguez and Grisham. And again, Dominguez continuing to bat leadoff, even with Grisham and Rice back in the lineup. But then Judge strikes out and Bellinger double play. So that was tough. I mean, and also, decent at bats as well by Judge and even more so Bellinger, but Wu gets out of it. And then he was in total cruise control. Second inning, you end up getting a situation where Cole Young gets an RBI single after there was a play that maybe Ben Rice could have made at first on a Dominic Canzone single. Maybe like if Goldschmidt's there, it's made, but either way, it makes it one of the Mariners on the Young RBI single. And then in the top of the fourth, a 2-out RBI single by Miles Mastrobuoni makes it 2-0 after Canzone gets a ground rule double 1 out on a play that Trent Grisham kind of stopped on, and maybe it's because of the hamstring that he's not going full out, which is problematic. But I guess if the All-Star breaks soon and they're not playing him so much, maybe they feel like they can kind of handle it. But again, some not shoddy defense, but let's just say not dotting the I's and crossing the T's, to say the least, leads the Mariners to getting a couple of runs. But that was all it was off of Stroman. And then Clayton Beeter comes on, pitches a good 6th inning. But as we've seen, kind of out of desperation, I guess, Boone and the Yanks push Beeter to a point that ends up being a problem. And I feel like I've seen that. I saw it with Efros, and I think that some of these pitchers need a quicker hook. Now, again, I understand that there's probably circumstances that are forcing them to keep these pitchers in. And you get a 2-out walk to Randy Rosarena after a leadoff walk to J.P. Crawford, and then a bad 0-2 hanger by Beeter leads to a 3-run shot by Jorge Polanco, his 14th homer of the year, makes it 5-0. At this point, it feels totally over. And Brian Wu is just continuing to just do his thing. JT Brubaker pitches a scoreless 8th for the Yankees. And then at the bottom of the 8th, it's Jazz Chisholm Jr. who breaks up the no-hitter. Wu had a chance. His pitch count was high, but he had a pretty efficient 7th, leading him to the point where there was a world, although I don't know, it would have been tough for Dan Wilson, the Mariner manager, but the decision is now made easy because Chisholm ends the no-hitter. And then Ben Rice singles, makes it 1st and 3rd, no out. Then it's Austin Wells with the sac fly. Austin Wells is the sac fly king. Although in that situation, you don't love it because, you're down by 5. Like, it's not like that was a great sac fly, but Austin Wells, believe me, he makes his mark later on. That makes it 5-1, and then Matt Brash comes on. Anthony Volpe strikes out looking. Again, Volpe's struggles continue. His batting average is down to 215. His OPS is down to 677. But Giancarlo Stanton pitches for Bebas, and he delivers. His 3rd homer of the year, a 2-run homer off of Matt Brash, makes it 5-3. That was really important. 3-run 8th inning. Then in the 9th, Ian Hamilton does a really nice job. And Hamilton, it's been very up and down for him, but 1-2-3 inning with a couple of strikeouts, leading us to the bottom of the 9th where Andres Munoz is on the mound for the Mariners. Now, he is an all-star closer. The Yankees did get him to blow a save last time, but it was different. It was a hit by pitch. It was sloppy defense. There might have been a steal involved as well. Like, he wasn't like touched up. This was different. The Yankees got to him in a 2-run deficit. And to give Trent Grisham a lot of credit for starting it off. Trent Grisham, I feel like in late game situations this year, has been someone that you really don't mind being up there. If nothing else, he's going to give you a real quality at bat. And he gets a single. And then Aaron Judge flies out. But then Cody Bellinger, he is able to deliver a single to extend his hitting streak to 15 games and to really keep the line moving and really at this point giving you a real chance. And now Jazz Chisholm Jr. is up as the potential winning run. And he's a little bit early on a slider and he flies out. So now it's down to Ben Rice. And Ben Rice is down 0-2 in the count. However, he's able to lay off of 4 straight balls to extend the game and lead it to bases loaded 2-out for Austin Wells. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I don't mind Austin Wells in these situations. Austin Wells, in my opinion, given like he's not one of the stars of the team, right? Like, uh, but I view him as one of the clutcher players in the team. And what does he do? He delivers a game-tying two-out single. The Yankees were down to the last strike a lot, right? Ben Rice was down to his last strike 4 times. Austin Wells was down to his last strike 2 times. And it was a full count, and I'm so glad he didn't walk because I didn't want Volpe up there. I would have not been happy if he walked. Yes, I would have been happy for the game to continue, but Austin Wells gets it done, 2-run single, and the Yankees tied up at 5. Then Volpe flies out to let it go to extra innings now. Huge that they did that to tie it up, but they still have to win. And Devin Williams pitches a scoreless 10th inning. Devin Williams has been really, really good. Devin Williams picks up his 3rd win in the season. Like, it's great to see this. Am I still nervous about the future with Devin Williams? I am. But, like, the fact that we're getting more of the Devin Williams that was seen for most of his time in Milwaukee is great. So now we go to the bottom of the 10th. Yankees have it set up to win it. Lefty Gabe Spire comes on. Oswald Peraza's up because he came in after the Giancarlo's pinch hit, and Peraza with a fucking bunt pop out. He takes the first pitch for a strike and then an awful looking bunt on the next one. That's unacceptable. I mean, the Yankees end up winning the game, but that is completely unacceptable for Oswald Peraza, a 150 hitter who's a defense first player at this point. For him to not be able to lay a successful bunt down is really, really bad. And for Peraza, I hope when all is said and done that he is not someone that is on this roster by the end of the season. Like, that just wouldn't be good. Even if it's a bench role, it's not ideal. The guy can't hit a lick, and for you not to be able to bunt there is extremely frustrating. Then Paul Goldschmidt pinch hits for Dominguez, which ends up working out, but I actually thought that it might have been more sensible to do it for Grisham, just because it would have forced them to have to pitch to Goldschmidt potentially. Instead, they intentionally walk Goldschmidt, but where that works out is Trent Grisham works a walk. And so that's where, even though Dominguez and Grisham, their walk rates are probably somewhat similar, maybe Grisham slightly higher, certainly against lefties, but it's a huge walk by Grisham. That was the key, right? Where Peraza fucks up, Grisham comes through. And them walking Goldschmidt, it does make sense. I mean, Goldschmidt is a terror against lefties, and I actually think that Gabe Spire was the one that Goldschmidt might have hit a pinch hit homer against him in Seattle. I think it might have been Spire, because he's one of the few lefties they got in that pen. But Grisham walks. He was helped by the ump as well. I mean, there was a 2-1 pitch that was clearly a strike called a ball, but Grisham walks to set it up for Judge. Bases loaded, 1 out. And Judge hits a sac fly that is just barely deep enough where Julio Rodriguez makes a perfect throw, a great throw. But Anthony Volpe makes a great slide using his right hand. And it looked like maybe he was going to lead him with his left. And Raleigh went to the left hand, but Volpe stretches out his right hand, and he is safe. They reviewed it, but the call would stand, and the Yankees get the comeback win, their best comeback win by a mile. And there's a lot of pretty cool stats. They had said this is the Yankees' first, latest 5-run deficit comeback in the 8th inning or later since I think 2016 against Texas. I think that was the stat. 5 runs or more, 8th inning or later, something around that. First time they've done this since 2016 where they win the game. That was against Texas. Also, this is the first time a team was no hit, like going into the 8th and losing by, I think, 5+ runs and won a game since like the 1977 Pirates. It was just interesting. The Yankees went from a team that really honestly did not come back much at all. That's been a gripe for me, to doing it in this way against Brian Wu, and Andres Munoz, and Matt Brash as well, was really got a pretty electric arm. And to get the sweep, I mean, Seattle has playoff aspirations. It's a pretty decent Seattle team, but again, this is a team that come playoff time, I'd like the Yankees to play. I'd rather face the Mariners, and maybe I'll eat these words down the road, but I would rather play the Mariners than the Rays or the Blue Jays. Yankees struggle in division. So if the Yankees are in a situation where, let's say, they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed or something, like, I'd rather be Seattle than the Red Sox as well. So again, that's more of a conversation for later, but the Yankees have had a lot of success against the Mariners over the years. So now let's preview the final series before the All-Star break, and the Cubs come to town. The Chicago Cubs have been very good this year. They're 55-38. So that's 3 games better than the Yankees. They're good. Like, acquiring Kyle Tucker, the emergence of Pete Crow Armstrong, this is a great lineup they have. And honestly, the way some of these pitching matchups line up, it's going to be tough for the Yankees. Now, Game 1 is Chris Flexen versus Carlos Rodon. Now, Chris Flexen was a former starter. This is actually his first start of the year. He's more of an opener. He actually has a below 1 ERA. Doesn't have much strikeout stuff, but the numbers are still very impressive. So expect it to be more of a bullpen game for the Cubs, and Carlos Rodon is going to look to bounce back after a poor start against the Mets. And just in general, he hasn't really been, in my opinion, hasn't really just been great lately either. Game 2 is a battle of all-stars, lefty all-stars, Matthew Boyd against Max Fried. And Max Fried, we'll see him in the All-Star game in Atlanta. But Boyd versus Fried, that should be a good one. I mean, again, Boyd's got a 2.5 ERA, Fried even better than that. Fried looking for his 12th win of the season. So that one should be interesting. And then game 3, the final game before the All-Star break, will be Shota Imanaga against Will Warren. So that's a tough one where Imanaga, he's been really good since, being in the majors starting last season. Like, he's impressive. And the strikeout numbers haven't quite been there this year, but the whip's really good. The ERA is low. Like, the Yankees have their work cut out for them this series, and they can somehow earn, a 2 out of 3 series win. That's a really good way to go into the break. With a little bit of momentum. Now, obviously, it kind of gets stunted by the stoppage, but still, it is something that I still think they can carry into post All-Star break, which they actually ironically play at Atlanta. So, again, great sweep by the Yankees, capped off by an unbelievable, stunning comeback win. 5 runs down in the 8th inning, and they were able to tie it up in the 9th, and Aaron Judge with a walk-off sac fly to win it in the 10th. Yankees improved to 52-41, and now they will take on the Chicago Cubs. They come to town for the last series before the All-Star break.